Wow, look at this. 1967 Alfa Romeo 33 Stradale. There are many people who would say this is one of the greatest looking cars ever made. Top 3 for sure. I wonder if they've thought about, I don't know, doing a modern update of it. It's a good idea. Now meet the new 33 Stradale, an ultra limited edition Alfa Romeo supercar, mid-engined, 620 brake horsepower, top speed of something like 206 miles per hour, 0 to 62 miles an hour in about 2.6 seconds. And as for the way it looks, well, the debt it owes its illustrious 60s forebear is so strong they haven't even bothered to change the name. But hey, when you've got a heritage as potent as Alfa Romeo's is, you may as well lean into it. So the original car was created to spearhead Alfa Romeo's return to top-line motor racing in the late 60s. It was the idea of then CEO, a man called Giovanni Eugenio Luraghi, who was a poet, a novelist, and a lyricist, I think, as well as being a pretty good businessman. He hired former Ferrari engineer Carlo Chitti, who had left when he fell out with Enzo Ferrari in 1961 during the infamous Palace Revolution. Anyway, the original 33 Stradale kick-started a kind of series, a bloodline, if you like, of Alfa Romeo competition cars, which are amongst the most successful that we've ever seen, and also the coolest. And it's those cars that this thing references. This is one of those cars that actually, it's really good to see it in the flesh, because photos are great, but there's more complexity going on here than is actually immediately apparent. So the Scudetto, which is the Alfa Romeo shield, I mean, look at that. You can get it with a 3D effect. That's ribbed. It's beautiful. There's a pronounced kind of V section in the bonnet, which design chief Alejandro says is something that we'll see that in future more affordable Alfa Romeos. Check out the headlights. 60s Italian sports cars, like the Lamborghini Miura, for example, had big, expressive kind of headlight apertures. You know, they made the cars look like they had beautiful faces. Modern cars to me are just too aggressive looking. Everybody's angry and mad. The world's angry enough. We don't need any more anger. Although you can see their LEDs inset there, actually the apertures themselves are pretty open. Lovely volumes here. This whole front section is what Italians call a cofango, which is basically the whole front end, the front wings, the hood or the bonnet. It opens as one piece. Butterfly doors. Now, of course, a lot of modern supercars have those, but the original 33 Stradale pretty much pioneered them. I'm not allowed to touch them because there's a rather angry Italian man over there who's wagging his finger at me. Look at the way the doors eat into the roof. When you sit inside the car, it's like a cockpit. They love an aviation connection in the car industry. Big side intakes. Come to the rear of the 33 Stradale though, and things are a bit different. It's incredibly aggressive at the back. Is it its best angle? I don't know. Rear 3/4 is often the best view for a mid-engine sports car. I mean, I love the way they've kind of chopped the top of the otherwise round rear light off. I love the V section. There's a V section at the front, which I think Alejandro, the head of Centro Stile, indicated would be a feature that we would see in future Alfa Romeos. That V section, well, we got it here, as you can see, just stops there, directly above the center of the rear diffuser. And it's actually, although it's a very sensual car with lots of curves and all the rest of it, there's some really nice kind of sharp kind of edges on it. And the way these rear lights kind of, I don't know, it's like a gun barrel or a cylinder, but this effect, the way they eat down into the rear wings is, well, it's probably one of my favorite features in a car I've seen quite a long time, actually. Super cool. So obviously all the theatre and showbiz is with the exterior. And it's a very pretty car, although it is a very faithful homage to the original 67 33 Stradale. But inside, I think this might be the coolest interior I've seen for quite a long time. And do you know why? Because there's very little in it. Apparently the clients just went, nah, I don't want all that stuff. I don't want lots of connectivity. I don't want big screens all over the place. So we've got, super cool kind of split leather seats. You can spec it in Tributo form, which is, kind of, I don't know, typically stylish Italian, or Alfa Corsa, which is more racy, Alcantara, lots of exposed carbon fibre. But look at the steering wheel. It's got one job, which is to steer the car and connect the driver. No buttons whatsoever. A telescopic, they call it, instrument display there. Anodized aluminium, mechanical switches. And then to deepen the aviation kind of aspiration, more switchgear in the area, in the roof, there in the middle, and this lovely sweep across the dashboard with a kind of intersection somewhere over by the passenger. Basically, this car has one job and one job only, and that is to entertain the driver. What a cabin, fabulous. Okay, let's talk about the engine. Alfa Romeo says it's an evolved version of the 3-litre twin-turbo V6 that's used to such great effect in the Giulia Quadrifoglio, but it gains a pre-chamber function here, which kind of confirms that actually there's a fair bit of the Maserati MC20's Nettuno engine. It means Neptune in Italian. It's good for 620 brake horsepower, but here's the thing, okay? There are 33 of these cars, so it is ultra limited edition. They've all been sold. They showed them this time last year, around the time of the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. I think they sold 3 that weekend, and then all the rest went a couple of weeks later. If you order one, you work very closely with a kind of skunk works in Alfa Romeo. I think they're based in this museum somewhere. It's called Bottega, and you can, personalize the car to the limit of your imagination. Anyway, what I was going to say is, the internal combustion engine is great. We know that engine, it's amazing. But you can also order this car as a BEV. Yes, you can have an electric Alfa Romeo 33 Stradale. They haven't actually decided whether it's going to have 2 or maybe 3 electric motors. They're just finalising that at the moment. That one, though, will be good for about 750 bhp. That's what they're claiming already. And it'll maybe do 280 miles, depending on how rapidly you like to drive your electric Alfa Romeo. Now, we were talking about this earlier on. I mean, look at this thing. Do you really want an electric one of these? I think the key thing about this car, and talk to Jean-Philippe Imperato, the boss of Alfa Romeo, and Alejandro Messinero Romanos, who's the head of design at Centro Stile in Alfa Romeo, and they will both tell you that one of the guiding principles of this car was simplicity. They wanted everything kind of, dialed down.
This new 33 Stradale is this combination between the functionality and the beautiness. For instance, just as an example, if you look to the headlamp, from far away, it reminds you the headlamp of the original 33 Stradale. It's very different from the headlamps that we have in supercars today, in fact. It has the lighting, but also the lighting function, but also is an air intake for the intercooler in the same graphic line. Also is an air curtain on the same graphic line. So there is a kind of research for simplicity, for making things functionally good, but beautiful.
Are contemporary high-performance cars too complicated?
It's all about the opinions, of course, but we took this car as an exercise of simplification. I think that obviously we are in a world where everything is getting more complex. So everyone has to be louder than the neighbor to be heard. I didn't want to go that way. I wanted to go almost the opposite. Make it simple to be heard. Make it simple to be noticeable. Make it simple to breathe. We had to give some space to the lines to talk. So it was a very instinctive, I would say, and a car that comes from the stomach in terms of design language. Of course, we wanted to keep the graphics of the 33 Stradale, the elytra doors with the glass above, the round tail lamps at the back, the air intake on the side. Some things we couldn't avoid, and we didn't want to avoid, but for the rest, we keep it simple.
What are your favorite bits on this car?
I think the hood is fantastic. The hood has, it's very simple. It has this kind of a scudetto, so our logo, our triangle, it's on the hood. It was quite unique, or it's quite unique, I believe. So yeah, I would say this is one of my favorite parts.
Can I ask you about the Bottega concept?
Yes.
So this is your in-house bespoke department, correct?
Yes, let's call it like that. In fact, we are the same people, obviously. I mean, the Bottega for us is a kind of idea where it's the ideal garage, if you want to call it otherwise. So this is the first car of our Bottega, and I can tell you that from November, big news, from November we're starting to design the next car of the Bottega.
They haven't confirmed the price, but our intel suggests that the new Alfa Romeo 33 Stradale will cost you, approximately £2 million. Gulp. It'll be manufactured in a limited run of just 33 cars by celebrated Milanese carrozzeria touring Superleggera for maximum personalisation. That, by the way, is almost twice as many units as the original.
Alfa Romeo only manufactured 18 33 Stradales back in the day, one of which apparently is unaccounted for. And amazingly, it was a 33 Stradale that was the basis for the Coupe Speciale, the Iguana concept, which doesn't have seatbelts, it has waistcoats. And this, the Alfa Romeo Carrabbo, designed by the great Marcello Gandini. For my money, this might be the greatest concept car ever made.
Top speed is a claimed 206 miles per hour. 0 to 62 takes less than 3 seconds, probably about 2.6, though we don't know yet. The electric version is similarly rapid and has a claimed range of 280 miles. A Strada mode is for less frenetic everyday driving, with a more compliant ride from the multi-link suspension and active dampers, while an exhaust valve actuation only works above 5,000 RPM. Pista mode tightens everything up in all the usual parameters, but also adds a fast start function via a quadrifoglio button on the centre console. Braking is by Brembo with carbon ceramic discs, and Alfa Romeo F1 driver Valtteri Bottas is part of the development team.
Yes, yes. We also remember the 8C Competizione, and yes, this is another new Alfa Romeo that's looking back in order to go forwards. Hopefully, a lot of the stuff that's in this car, design-wise, will enliven the huge number of new Alfa Romeos that we can expect over the next 2 or 3 years. Do you think it's a bit too kind of retro? Too much of a resto mod? I don't really care. When something looks as tasty as this, are you bothered?